Exactly.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا افتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وانت خير الفاتحين. اما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I hope everyone's doing well today. Alhamdulillah. Welcome back to what is now our sixth lesson of the Tuhfa. This is not our last lesson in terms of content. Inshallah, my plan for today is for us to do our very best and get through everything in regards to the med. And inshallah, next week, go over the conclusion and just an overview of everything we've done so far. So we have like a bit of revision because it has been a while, for example, since we've done the makharij of the letters, the sources. All right, start by sharing my screen. All right, Brother Asrar, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. And also, if you remove my face icon? Yeah, thank you. All good.
All right. Okay, so we'll start with the Tuhfa itself and what does it say. The author writes, Aqsam al-Mad, the types of Mad. Please follow along with the translation as I'm reading it out. والمد أصلي وفرعي له وسم أولا طبيعيا وهو ما لا توقف له على سبب ولا بدونه الحروف تجتلب بل أي حرف غير همز أو سكون جاء بعد مد فالطبيعي يكون والآخر الفرعي موقوف على سبب كهمز أو سكون مسجلا حروفه ثلاثة فعيها باللفظ واو وهي في نحيها والكسر قبل الياء وقبل الواو يضم شرط وفتح قبل ألف يلتزم واللين منها الياء وواو سكنا إن انفتاح قبل كل علما. أحكام المد. The rules of the mad. للمد أحكام ثلاثة تدوم وهي الجواب والجواز واللزوم فواجب إن جاء همز بعد مد من كلمة وذا بمتصل يعد وجائز مد وقصر إن فصل كل بكلمة وهذا المنفصل ومثل ذا إن عرض السكون وقفا كتعلمون نستعين أو قدم الهمز على المد وذا فذلك آمنوا وإيمانا خذا ولازم السكون أصلا وصلا ووقفا بعد مد طولا. أقسام المد اللازم. The types of مد لازم. أقسام لازم لديهم أربعة وتلك كلمي وحرفي معه كلاهما مخفف مثقل فهذه أربعة تفصل فإن بكلمة سكون اجتمع مع حرف مد فهو كلمي وقع أو في ثلاثي حروف وجدا والمد وسطه فحرفي بدا كلاهما مثقل أضغما مخفف كل إذا لم يدغما واللازم الحرفي أول الصور وجوده في ثمان حصر يجمعها حروف كم عسل نقص وعين ذو وجهين والطول أخص وما سوى الحرف الثلاثي لا ألف فمده مدا طبيعيا ألف وذاك أيضا في فواتح الصور في لفظ حي طاهر قد انحصر ويجمع الفواتح الأربع عشر صه صحير من قطع فاشتهر. Alhamdulillah, that is everything in regards to the med in the Tuhfa. What does all of that mean? Let's go into our books where it's been broken down in a much more digestible way. Bismillah. I had the section up. I don't know why it moved to the top. All right, med literally means to stretch. It is the lengthening of the sound due to one of the letters of the mad. All the mad rules are based upon three mad letters. Alif, as preceded by fatha. Ya sakin, as preceded by a kasra. And the waw sakin when preceded by dhamma. If you remember, I always like to think of the fatha, kasra, and dhamma as the little siblings of these letters, alif, ya, and waw, of our vowels. Our vowels are the ones which you have to worry about when it comes to the mad. Now, types of mad. In your notes, if you're taking notes, and I do highly suggest that you take notes, please keep in mind this. You're going to have to be building lots and lots of tabs of one another things, a lot of branches of mad, and a lot of types of mad. So I want you to be able to actively keep note of them and know which type of mad can be traced back to which origin. The first one, natural mad, طبيعي. The second is the secondary mad, farai. Farai is further split into two groups. The mad due to hamza and the mad due to sukoon. The mad due to hamza is split into three sections: al-mad al-muttasil, al-mad al-munfasil, and al-mad al-badal. We're going to go into all of these later. The secondary mad, which is due to sukoon, this one here, is divided also into three sections: mad al-lazim, mad al-arad lis-sukoon, and al-mad al-lin. Take your time to write these down. Ideally, if you are on paper, maybe make a page for each of these or a heading for each of these. If you're digital, that's even better. Then you can just make a heading and then enter in the content as we go along. Brother Asrar, can you please just confirm for me if you can hear me, my audio properly?
Yes, I can hear and see properly. Jazakallah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, inshallah. By now, I hope you should have it. If you don't have it, just take a screenshot of this or a picture of your screen and keep a note of these sections and these headings. Moving forward, the natural mad, al-mad al-tabi'i. The natural mad is one of the mad letters, alif, waw, or ya, not followed by a hamza or a sakin letter. It is prolonged to two harakat. Now, before we go into this, I want to make this very clear. Natural mad is natural, and I have made a point to listen to all of you, and I am fairly certain with like 95% accuracy that all of you do this naturally anyway. So don't take this as a reason to confuse. I'm telling you the rules of it, but just FYI, you're already doing it. Don't complicate things for yourself. Chances are you're already doing it right. Examples of natural mad. الناس زينا يقول. Now, notice, you just say the letter the way it should be said. And I think all of you have already got this down. But one note that you should make is when you stop on a word that has two fathas above the last letter, but only one fatha and alif will be pronounced. This mad is called mad awad. So this is the only exception. That you will then cancel out the tanween and go for just one fatha and one alif. For example, shukura, musamma, binaa, etc. All right, notice, no mad is pronounced if the word ends with ta marbuta. Ta marbuta is the ta which is like a circle shape at the end of the word. If you stop at a ta marbuta, that ta becomes a ha, pronounced as a ha. For example, the word rahmah, instead of becoming rahmat, becomes rahmah with a bit of air with the ha. All right, please, anyone, feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast.
But I just want
We
to
will go on to, yes?
Just wanted to confirm. So with these mad tabi is like two haraka long kind of thing. So in bina, so it'll be like or bina, just like a one haraka.
So the hamza does not have a natural mad.
Okay.
And
So in the second
the
case of
bina'a,
the second
bi-
second case of mad awaz. So yeah,
yeah.
how would you pronounce the bina or bina?
So this is just unfortunately this isn't the best example because that type of alif in the word bina, that med we're gonna go over it. That is
Yeah.
muttasil.
Yes. Okay.
So that's just a bit
Not
the
talking about the
confusion there
last
just
one. I'm
comes.
talking about the last one from the tanween one. So tanween, if you're stopping at it, so you
Mhm.
convert it into a single right? The and hamza
Yeah.
at the end here. So how long
Mhm.
that does that be? Like 2 haraka long or?
Bina, yeah, 2 harakas.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
Yes.
I just want to confirm. So mad ibad is 2 haraka, like
Yes.
shukura, not 1
Yeah.
haraka. Okay.
Mhm.
Because it says, okay, now inshallah, jazakallah.
Generally.
Sorry, I have one question.
Yes, of course.
For the word rahma, like,
Mhm.
where's the mud?
No med in the word rahma. It's just letting you know with the ta marbuta how the ta marbuta works.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Anything else? All right, bismillah. Now we're moving on to our second type of med, farai. Farai means literally branched off. This is still a med which is important, but it's not natural, as in it's not because the letters are just made to be that way. Now, again, as we said, farai is split into 2 sections, med due to hamza and med due to sukun. We're on the section of med due to hamza. First of the 3, al-mad al-muttasil. Al-muttasil means literally the connected, the med of the connection. If a letter of med is followed by a hamza, Muhammad Hassan, what are the letters of med?
Sorry, are you asking me?
Yes, what are the letters of med?
Can I still hear?
There's so much. Oh, you mean the natural mad, alif, waw, and yeah.
Good. So if any of those letters are followed by a hamza, which is present in the same word, the reader should prolong the med 4 or 5 harakat. This med is obligatory. That means you'd say an alif and a hamza, a ya and a hamza, a waw and a hamza, and they're inside the same word, then it becomes muttasil and you have to say that med 4 or 5 harakat. And the writers of the Quran, as usual, have made things really easy for us, alhamdulillah. This symbol over here is your indicator that once you see it, you know you're going to do the med. For example, over here, جاء جاء with a waw. بالسوء with a ya. النسيء. By the way, what do I mean by the word haraka? Now, a haraka, I know this is going, if you've never encountered this word, I'm going to sound so silly right now. A haraka is a measurement of time, and is the time it takes for you to move your finger. It's like how long is a piece of string? Effectively, the time it takes for you to have your hand, if you've got your hand curled up into a sort of light fist, the time it takes for you to outstretch your finger out all the way, that is 1 haraka. Now, every person is going to be different. Someone's haraka might be shorter than someone else's, and someone can be longer than someone else's. That's normal. That's how it works. There is a bit of range with the med. The main thing is you as a reader, you as a qari, should keep it consistent. So when you do 2 harakas in one instance, whatever it is, and then in another instance you do 4 harakas, they have to be exactly double because you're using the same unit of measurement for yourself. But you can't be alternating the length of your haraka. Does everyone understand what I mean there?
Yes, yeah. I was just in this thing, I always told my son that it depends upon the speed at which you're reading normally. So if you're reading fast, then your haraka is short. If you're reading slow, then your haraka is long. Is that right or wrong?
Yes, correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why you will find some qaris, some mashaykh, for example, they'll be غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And you'll find another shaykh, he's reading the same thing. He'll say غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. It's still 6. It's still the same number of harakat. We'll get to that later. But one is reading slower, one is reading faster. So one is going to have a longer harakat, therefore a longer mad. All right, moving forward, we are still on the farai mad, and we're still on the mad due to hamza. Now the second of the three, mad al-munfasil. Al-munfasil means the disconnected. If a letter of mad is at the end of a word and is followed by a hamza, which is present at the beginning of the next word, so 2 separate words, the reader should prolong the mad 4 or 5 harakat. Mad for 2 harakat, which is natural mad, is pronounced when stopping on the letter of mad. This mad is optional. Now remember what we said, alif, waw, and ya, by nature, are going to be 2 harakat. If you stop there at the end of the word, before you move on to the word which starts with a hamza, then it becomes optional for you to do that, the natural. However, think of the muttasil as literally the same as, think of the munfasil as the same as the muttasil. The only difference is it's 2 separate words. 1 word, 2 words. Same signal. Let me give you an example. Here, in the first one, I have the mad on the alif. The word stops here, inna. The next word, arsalnaka, starts with a hamza. So I connect the two using a mad. Inna arsalnaka. Over here. تأكلوا أموالكم. Now, this is optional. You can either choose to pronounce this mad or omit it. However, what's really important to keep in mind is it's not optional within the same recitation. Meaning, let's say you sit down and you're going to do a halaqah, all right? And you've decided for this halaqah, I am going to do the munfasil mad. And I'm going to do it. Remember what we said, you can do it, 4 or 5 halaqah. If you're going to do it, then every single instance you come across the munfasil mad, you have to do it. If you decide that you're not going to do it, in every single instance you come across it, you don't do it. If you're praying salah, within the same rak'ah, ideally within the same prayer in general, but within the same rak'ah, if you started off and the first munfasil, you did the mad, then you should do the mad throughout the rest. If you don't do it, then you don't do it throughout the rest. You have to ensure consistency. And that's why you will notice that, especially in Taraweeh, when the Imam is reading long amounts of surahs, large amounts of Quran, and he knows that the people behind him maybe are not up to standing up for too long at the night. They've got work the next morning or whatever, and so he's trying to make it easy on them. He'll read the Quran a bit faster in the Hadr method, and he will almost always omit the muttasil mad just so he can save on a bit of time. For example, he could be reading and he will say, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, instead of going and doing the munfasil and saying, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. Sorry, excuse my voice, I'm a bit sick. But the main thing is you will keep it consistent within the one reading, the one recitation. All right, any questions about the munfasil mad?
Just a practical
question. Yeah, go ahead, bro. It'd be a good time to actually ask questions because I'm being brutally honest. It took us 3 hours with the seniors to do this. So I think just give them some room to breathe and ask questions. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Just while listening to that, usually sometimes, in the beginning I used to mark the mads in my, mushaf just to, keep it in my mind fresh. But now I realize that I should be marking the muttasil and the munfasil separately. So just as you mentioned that if we are choosing to omit the munfasil ones, So it means that I mean, probably you guys already know in your head that these are different types. But I think for like being non-Arab, sometimes I kind of forget while you're reciting that I should be not elongating it. So probably separating them in the memory as well as in the Musaf might be a helpful advice. Would you suggest?
Yes, and I mean, remember what we said. Muttasil in the same word, munfasil, different words. You're right, though. If you're not non-Arab, sometimes it might be a bit hard to know what's the same word and what's a different word. So, yeah, having a marker in your mushaf can be very helpful, yeah. Good tip.
Actually, with Brother Ibrahim, I actually learned that when I do the Hafs and Asim recitation, I actually omit the mad munfasil because my breath is very short. Mm-hmm. And so I did not know that these are actually two words. They are not one word. So I would actually make longer. But then when I listened to the recitation of one of the parties, and he was saying shorter. So I was like, okay, I understand now. Brother Sra is right. Jazakallah.
Yeah, mashallah. That's a really good tip as well. Oh, thank you guys for sharing. Yeah, everyone, if your breath is short and you don't think you're up to it, then you can emit the mad munfasil. And that way it's easier for you to read the Quran without stopping at awkward places. Anyone else?
You're right. If I add 2 cents worth for Sheikh?
Yep.
Yeah, so just letting you guys know, specifically for the teachers, we've had situations in the past where I have assessed specific teachers, and this is assessment before the course, not afterwards. And they keep saying, and I do appreciate what the Sheikh has mentioned, that you cannot switch backwards and forwards. I'm assessing somebody on Tariqat Shatiliya, and then they miss the mad and they'll say, I'm reading the other way. First of all, you've already failed the mark, so you're not confessing to your mistake and writing down the notes. And the second more complicated thing is, what is the other way? What I advise everybody is that if you are going to take the other way, which is Tariqat Nashr, is study up on it. For context, I do not have an ijazah in Tayyibat Nashr. Tayyibat Nashr gets covered after you do 10 ijazah and all the qira'at. Then you do the special qira'ah. However, if you do have an ijazah, you can actually look into the rules. It's not just about med as well. We said last week there is the scene. The sector. The rules are different. وَقِيلَ مَرَّةً and then وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَى. You have to differentiate between that. There is yada sultu and yada sultu. There is a preference for Imam Shatibi, but there isn't a preference for Imam Jazir. There was also the issue, mashallah, you said with Ya Ayyuh. Now, Ya Ayyuh is interesting because this has got something to do with Ilm al-Musahif. Arabs know for a fact that two separate words. However, in the Khatm al-Uthmani, that was agreed upon by the Sahaba. And this is how the definition is now.
Sorry, but I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
I'm sorry, Brother Ibrahim. I'm not able to hear your voice.
Brother Israr, can you hear him at all?
I can hear yours, but not Brother Ibrahim's.
Oh, interesting.
I can hear Brother Ibrahim.
Me too.
Okay, then maybe something on my side. Sorry, I don't know why.
Okay, now moving on to the next type. Now again, we're still on the Farai mid, and we're still on the mid due to Hamza. This is the differences between al-muttasil and al-munfasil. Remember, al-muttasil, one word, al-munfasil, 2 words. 1 word, 2 words. Al-mad al-muttasil is present when stopping on the mad and when joining with the words. Mad al-munfazil is only present when we are joining the words. Meaning, so if you're stopping at the end of the word with the mad in it, if it's muttasil, you still obviously have to say it. If it's munfasil, you don't have to say it. Al-mad al-muttasil is obligatory. Mad al-munfasil is optional. Things we've covered. And now the last type of mad, which is due to hamza, which is far'i, is mad al-badal. Mad al-badal. Then, if the letter of the mad is preceded by a hamza, and then it's not followed by a hamza or a second letter, then the letter of the mad will be prolonged to 2 harakas, very similar to the natural. So, again, letter of the mad, before that letter there's a hamza, but then the letter itself is not followed by a hamza or a second letter, then this mad letter is only going to be 2 harakas. For example, over here, this word, wa'ata, wa'ata. Now, the letter of interest here is the alif. Okay, the alif, waw, ya. Before it is a hamza, but after it, there is neither a hamza or a sukoon. Therefore, this alif here takes on the same as it would be if it were a natural mad, and it's just 2 harakas. Over here, utuhu, utuhu. Same concept. Now, to make it very clear, this is very similar to the natural mad in the terms of you guys already say it. It's not something you have to put in a conscious effort. I mean, until now, I haven't heard any of you say this wrong. So I'm happy to just keep going. This is just an FYI to let you know. Now, as we said, the far'i mad is split into 2 parts. We have the mad due to hamza and the mad due to sukoon. Now we're moving on to the mad due to sukoon, and the first of the 3. Al-mad al-'arid lis-sukoon. If a letter of mad is followed by a letter at the end of a word, which is sakin, temporarily, because the reader has chosen to stop on the word. Now remember, sukoon can be as part of it, naturally occurring, or it can be temporary. Meaning if the reader decides to stop to take a breath, the last letter he said technically becomes sakin, but that's only temporary. All right? So this only applies to the mad which is temporary, the sukoon which is temporary. The reader should prolong the mad to be mad 'arid lis-sukoon, either to 2, 4, or 6 harakas. For example, over here. By the way, this is not indicated by any wavy line. Al-qisas. Now, if we were to keep going, we would say al-qisasu. كتب عليكم القصاص في القتلى. I keep going, the alif itself stays as is. If I was to stop, for whatever reason, then I would pronounce the alif with either 2, 4, or 6 harakas. كتب عليكم القصاص. Up to you. Now, you will see this most commonly at the end of an ayah. Let's say if the sheikh is leading salah, he's reading Quran, the last ayah that he's going to read, he's then going to prolong the letter of mad of the last word that he says before going into ruku'. For example, Inna Allah Azizun Hakim. Allahu Akbar. You've all encountered that, right? If he was to carry on, he didn't go into ruku', he's going to carry on. And let's say he's going to connect the two ayat, whatever reason, then the ya stays normal. Inna Allah Azizun Hakim walladhina ittakhadhu. Whatever it is. Some more examples. Tattakun. 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 2, 4, or 6. Up to you. Note, this mad only exists if the reader stops on the word. If you keep reading, completely ignore it. All right. Any questions on the mad arad al-sukun?
All good. Just I think confirmation that it means that
Yep.
once we choose one of these numbers 2, 4, or 6, you have to be consistent with every ayat, right?
Correct. MashaAllah. I was actually going to use that as one of my questions, but yes, you're completely right. Same concept applies. You have to stay consistent. Nice spotting. All right.
Sorry, I have a question regarding this.
Yeah.
So so when we do, for instance, if I say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Amma yatasalu, so I make it longer, right?
Yeah.
But when we finish, let's say we are going into ruku', or we finish the recitation complete to the end, right? So then we have to make that end ayah, the last word, longer than the rest of the ayat, isn't it? Is that the same concept, or?
I'm not aware of that, but maybe that is a thing. Sheikh Ibrahim?
Yeah, can you hear me, guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so this one, in my humble opinion, this is, you could say, I used to be of that opinion, but it's a false ijtihad, basically. The reason why I mentioned that is that some people try to do their own thing when it comes to giving people an indication. However, there is no specific nas or anything that we've received in talaqi from the chain of narration that says it has to be long for the last one. So what that indicates is more of a tradition. The evidence we have for that is from the Jazariya. Imam al-Jazari said, وَاللَّفْظُ فِي نَظِيرِهِ كَمِثْلِهِ. So the principle still stands. If you're reading with qasr, which is 2 harakat, or shortening, or tawassut, or 4 harakat, which is the medium one, or ishba', which is the 6 harakat long, for the arad and mufassal and mutassal, you have to stick with one. So this is based on Imam al-Jazari. So, yeah, Allahu Alam. That's basic.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for that. Okay, carrying on. By the way, for the sisters, feel free to interject if you have a question. Otherwise, once the brothers are gone, again, I will open the floor to questions from you guys. If they come up to you, maybe write them down just so you don't forget. All right. Again, we're still on the Fari Mad, and we're still on the Mad due to Sukoon, the second of them, Al-Mad al-Leen. The Leen letters, Waw and Ya Sakin, preceded with a Fatha. Now remember when we said back in the very first part, we said that the letters of Mad is the letter, Alif, Waw, or Ya, preceded by its little sibling. So Alif before it is a Fatha, Waw before it is a Dhamma, Ya before it is a Kasra. Mad al-Leen, the Leen letters, is only Waw and Ya when preceded with a Fatha. Bit of an exception here. If one of the Leen letters is followed by the letter at the end of a word, which is sakin due to stopping, same as above, then the reader should prolong the Leen letter to 2, 4, or 6 harakats. Very, very, very similar to the one above. For example, over here, the word khayr. If I'm going to keep going as usual and not stop on this word, for example, قال ما مكني فيه ربي خير فأعينوني بقوة. Surah Al-Kahf. All right? I said خير فأعينوني, as usual. If I'm going to stop and I say قال ما مكني فيه ربي خير, I stopped at خير. First off, the haraka on the ra is cancelled, and the ya preceding the ra now becomes a Leen letter because it has a fatha on top of the word before it, the letter before it. Up to me, I can say ما مكني فيه ربي خير فيه ربي خير, or 6 فيه ربي خير, because this ya becomes a letter of Leen, Mad Leen. Same thing, ريب بالغيب, and with a waw, You have, for example, يوم. If we're carrying on, يوم. But if we're stopping, up to you, 2, 4, or 6, يوم. And again, as Brother Asrar beautifully pointed out to us, you need to keep it consistent within the same reading. This is only if the reader stops on the word. Any questions about that? Medellin. Okay. Moving on. By the way, this lesson is the one which is most important for you to take notes and to know that they're branching out, because there are so many different moving parts here. You will get lost if you're not remembering what the different parts are and how they relate to one another. Again, we are still on the med farai, the secondary med, and we are still on the med due to sukoon. This is the last one of those, al-mad al-lazim, which is the obligatory med, the med that you have to do, also indicated by a wavy line. If a letter of med is followed by an original sukoon, not due to stopping, or by a mushaddad letter, the reciter should prolong the med to 6 harakas. Now, how do you know that it's naturally sakin or naturally mushaddad? If it has the symbol of sukoon or the symbol of shadda on top of the letter, all right? And that is, like the W or the little circle or the mini ha kind of thing, right? Let's go into it to kind of make it a bit easier. Mad lazim, again, we are going to split it. See, this is what I'm saying. You need to we are splitting mad lazim into 2 different parts, which are then split into further 2 different parts. You have the mad lazim kalimi. From that, you have muthaqqal and mukhaffaf. You have the mad lazim harfi, and that is also split into muthaqqal and mukhaffaf. Now think about that. You can have a mad, but then I can also describe it and I can say this is a secondary farai mad, which is due to sukoon, and it is mad lazim, kalimi, muthaqqal. That's like 5 different layers of classification. So please keep in mind when I say this. We're going to start with the mad lazim kalimi muthaqqal. That is the obligation mad, the one that we're on now. If the letter of mad is followed by a mushaddad letter, which is present in the same word, then the reciter should prolong the mad to 6 harakat. For example, you have wala dal. Notice, you have the mad over here on the letter alif, all right? After that, you have lam with a shadda, and we know it's naturally with a shadda because they've written it with a shadda for us, all right? And it's in the exact same word, within the same thing, so we're going to make it 6 harakat. You have here, by the way, this here is a very, very rare exception. It's double. There are 2 of these meds in this one single word. This is the only time it ever shows up in the Quran in Surah Al-An'am. The first one, you have the med on top of the alif, all right? Within the same word, you have a jim with a shadda. That's why this becomes mad lazim kalimi muthaqqal. The waw, same thing. It's followed by a noon with a shadda in the same word. So we're going to pronounce it 6 harakat.
Here, you go there.
Any questions about that?
I'm studying, so I saw ask. Yeah, go there. Bring your iPad. Bring your headphone.
What does the in atuhaduna? What does the symbol below the mad mean? That looks like number 1.
Oh, that's an alif. So it's just the way that's written. That's just a mini alif, but it's pronounced the same as a regular alif.
Okay, so.
Anyone else? All right. The next type, mad lazim kalimi mukhaffaf, is if a letter of mad is followed by an original sukoon. So again, what's an original sukoon, Brother Asrar?
Honestly, I'm not sure what the original sukoon mean. Sorry.
All right, someone else, what's an original sukoon?
Isn't it just a letter that's like, it has a sukoon, it's not temporary?
Correct. So it has a sukoon that's written on top of it, and it will always be sukoon regardless of where you stop or where you keep going.
Oh, you mean you're not stopping at it, basically. You're not temporarily stopping at it.
No.
Yep, okay.
It's just sukoon because it is that way.
Oh, yeah.
All right, if a letter of mad is followed by original sukoon, which is present in the same word, then the reciter should prolong the mad to 6 harakas. Now, to make your life so much easier, there's only one single instance where you have to worry about this. Only one word, which is mad lazim kalimi mukhaffaf. And that is al-ana. That's the only one. Any questions about the word al-ana?
Just wondering which surah does it fall under?
Surat Yunus, twice.
Oh,
No way.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Where exactly are we in Tuhfa so we don't lose the students? So I think one criteria we need to get established before the next course is what makes lazim different from other mudud. You can open this as an open question, like just get everybody to explain why it's lazim. What makes lazim different from, why does it have to have its own bab for a chapter compared to the other types? Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, any thoughts, anyone? Lazim, as I said before, lazim means obligatory. Something that you have to do. And this has its own chapter in the Tuhfa.
Yeah, so a question I was going to ask, and open the floor to everybody, is why is it lazim? We always work on the why. There has to be a dalil evidence. We talked about Fara'i and Asli, and talked about the Hamza, mashallah, we categorized it, but what makes lazim compulsory, if that makes sense? I might as well ask the guys that have done the Tuhfa before just to get their opinion. Jazakallah khair.
Is it for emphasis?
Can you elaborate, please?
Means I'm just thinking that the meaning of the word, right, as it is put in the ayah, I think that it requires the emphasis on that particular word. I'm not sure of the Arabic, but I think that as in the meaning of what it's supposed to mean.
So that you mean the Sheikh did it as he called it lazim to kind of try and emphasize why it's so important. That's why he did its own whole chapter.
No, I mean to say is when because it's mad lazim, right? You have to do the mad. So probably it has to do something with the meaning in the ayah, because you have to probably it's required that this word is elongated, so that it's emphasized in the ayah. That's what I'm thinking off the top of my head. But maybe there's a.
You mean the meaning of the word will change if you don't do it, which is why you must do it.
I don't know if it will change or not, but it will not be emphasized in a sense. Means that rhythm of that meaning won't be there, I guess. That's off the top of my head, but maybe there's other explanation.
That's a really good thing that you say, because you know what? Because last lesson we talked about the letters of stopping. When I said waqf lazim, the obligatory stop, I see how you made the connection there. Any other thoughts from anyone else?
I was thinking in terms of because all the Qur'an have agreed upon it, and this is how it has been transmitted through Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Is there a connection with that?
Everything in terms of the tajweed comes through the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yes. Sheikh Ibrahim.
Is it because of the scholars are agreed on the same amount of harakat, how much they spend it?
MashaAllah, that's also a really good observation. How many is that? How many?
Six.
Okay.
Six harakat.
Correct. MashaAllah. Anyone else?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, what was said by everyone is pretty good. Like, alhamdulillah, it's good that the scholars have agreed. But, sometimes you don't need scholars to agree on something if it's pretty clear cut. For example, we talk about ijma' and all these things. there is a specific ijma' on certain usul of fiqh, and these things are clear cut and we achieve them by consensus. The reason why we reach ijma' is we collect evidences of sharia, hadith, qira'ah, everything else, and then we back it up with evidence. Best example we have right now is I've just been listening to a lot by Imam Malik. He's talking about can a woman on her cycle do a tawaf, and start off on tawaf when she goes to Hajj. Obviously, we have dalil as evidence. Now, what's going to happen is, as qurra, you muqri'in, the expectation is moving forward in more advanced courses, you'll be expected to justify the differences. So this is, and billah tawfiq, my simple definition. The mudud that you just covered, the simple answer for them is that you've got the 4 harakat ones, they're pretty clear cut. So you look for a hamza, that's your biggest clue. Hamza middle of a word is muttasil, hamza outside of the words is mufassal, disconnected. That's what I mean, connected, disconnected. And then in between that, you have the subcategories that you have to memorize in the future, like badal, arad, sukoon, madleen, and so on and so forth. With mad lazim, the illa in this case is sukoon. So I'm going to give you an exercise, and Sheikh here has already nice words. So you got now wala dhalin, and it's extended 6 harakat. The meaning of the mad I actually teach after the course, because it actually it makes sense once you've covered the tajweed and you've understood the meanings of it. But specifically, if I say the word dhalin, and this is going to be really hard for you to grasp, because for some of you, you've never described it before. Where is sukoon on dhalin? I'm not asking Sheikh here, I'm asking you guys. Does anybody want to take a guess?
Yeah, لا مشدد has like it's 2 letters. It's one with haraka and one sakin.
Mumtaz. So excellent. So how would you draw it? Like which one has a sukoon, which one doesn't have a sukoon?
Because the first one has sukoon, and then they have because we say dali. So you say the sukoon and then you say the kasra, right? The haraka.
Exactly. So that's basically it. So that's the sukoon, and that's the example, and that's why we extended 6 harakat. Al-ana. I'm going to ask everybody a trick question. Where is the sukoon on al-ana?
The lam. Isn't it?
Are you sure?
Al-ana, because it's 2 words. It's al-ana, so it's a question.
Yes.
Right?
So what does?
It's
yes,
al-ana.
exactly.
So and they switch the other hamza with the med, so we make it easier to say it.
Yes, exactly. So in this case, there is an element of ease. As you know, the Arabs, we don't say ata, we say ata. We don't say utu, we say utu. This will get covered later on. What I'm trying to say is basically what is the main differentiation between al-lazim and al-muttasil. The muttasil is the sukoon. So just that's a simple way of wording it. I'll let Sheikh carry on here with examples, inshallah, to elaborate further. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh.
All right. We're still on the mad, which is due to sukoon. Now the mad lazim harfi. Remember we said with the mad lazim is split into 2, the kalimi and the harfi. Mad lazim harfi, there are 14 independent letters that occur in the Quran at the beginning of some surahs. That's, for example, alif, lam, mim. The mnemonic for these letters are as follows. So all of these letters can be found in the sentence. Nassun hakimun qati'un lahu sir. Nassun hakimun qati'un lahu sir. There are others, by the way. Other mnemonics. These letters are attached to each other like ordinary words. However, the individual letters have to be pronounced by reading out their respective names. Now, what does that mean? Let's say you're reading Quran for the very first time and you come across the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. Sometimes you'll meet, like, let's say, children. They've never heard the surah before. They'll look at that and they'll be like, alam, right? They see a alif, they see a lam, they see a mim. So they read it as one word, alam. That's wrong. With the huruf al-mutaqatti'ah, the independent letters, each letter is you say the name of the letter. Alif, Lam, Mim. Some of these letters are prolonged to 6 harakas. So again, not all of them are going to be given mad. Not all of the huruf mutaqatti'a are going to have mad, 6 harakas. That is those found in naqasa asalukum. Noon, Qaf, Sad, Ain, Sin, Lam, Kaf, Mim. By the way, all of these letters are found either in the first or the second ayah of our surah. Mad lazim harfi muthaqqal. So that's mad lazim, which is harfi, meaning of pertaining to the letters, other huruf mutaqatti'a, and muthaqqal. That is, if a letter of mad is followed by a mushaddad letter, then the reader should prolong the mad letter to 6 harakas. For example, over here, we have the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif, Lam, Mim. And now here we have them written out the way you would pronounce that. Alif, Lam, Mim. Now notice the Mim here is mushaddad. Okay, remember these two memes are going to be connected with each other. They're the same thing. Because of that shad, our lam, as in the word lam, is going to have a mad of 6 harakats. For example, over here, because we have a shadda on the meme, and because this one is ikhfa, then the ya of sin is going to be switched 6 harakats. Now note, there are 5 letters which are prolonged to only 2 harakats. These are the letters of hayyun tahur. So, for example, Taha. Taha. When you read Surah Taha, that's the name of the surah, you don't go Taha. No. Because they come under these letters, these 5, and it's just said with 2 harakas. Taha. And the alif will not have a mad. It's just its natural mad of 2 harakas. Now, I would love to stop for questions here because I know this is a bit of an interesting topic, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to keep going. 5 more minutes. Now, the mad due to sukoon. All right, we're still on the same farai mad due to sukoon. Mad lazim harfi mukhaffaf. If by now I know it's late at night and we've gone into so many different branches, bear with me now. If a letter of mad is followed by a second letter, then the reader should prolong the mad to 6 harakas. Now that's the same as the mad lazim that we talked about. However, the letter ayn is a little bit special. It can be either 4 or 6 harakas. Since the middle letter of ayn, the word ayn, ya, nun, that ya is a letter of leen. The preference, however, is for you to prolong it to 6 harakas. So I'm just going to say this. Don't confuse yourself. Keep it simple. Keep it easy. The ayn, keep it 6 harakas. Don't worry about the 4. This only occurs twice anyway in Surah Maryam and Surah Ash-Shura. For example, Surah Maryam starts with Ayn, Sin, Qaf. All right. That ayn, you can either switch it 4 or 6. All right. We'll just keep going. Oh, and now we are on the exercises. Okay, beautiful. We've finished everything. Now, just in the interest of time, what's going to happen is I'm going to stop here, open the floor for questions. Now, I know we didn't have a chance to do exercises. I'm going to give you 2 options. I personally have to go. I have some other commitments. Either Sheikh Ibrahim can take on the lesson and keep it going and go over the practical things with you guys, the brothers first, and once they're gone, the sisters. Or we can go over some practical things of mad afterwards. We'll see how we go. This lesson has been a very big one. I understand that everyone is probably quite tired right now, so thank you so much for your patience and for coming in. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate everyone who's been answering questions today. You've all shown some very strong critical thinking, mashallah, and your brains are working overtime. Very proud. Questions in terms of the mat, specifically the last things that we've done for the huruf.
Jazakallah khair, brother. I think I have no questions at the moment, and I'm open for both. If Brother Ibrahim wants to continue, I'm okay with that. If we want to do it next week, I'm also okay with that. Jazakallah khair.
Same here.
Okay. Sisters?
I think it's better to make it for next week.
Yeah,
Is that?
It's a pretty heavy subject.
Yeah, it's a very long, so it's better to make it next week if it's that possible.
Yes, I would agree with that. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Is med-lean considered 2 counts, or is it just like how many counts do we say that it is?
2.
Okay. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Anyone else? Okay, I think we'll stop it here. What I would highly recommend is everyone please go over your notes before the next lesson, just so that it's still fresh in your mind, because between one Thursday and the next... Oh, yeah?
Brother, so a question for the lean letter. If it's 2 counts, but if we stopped at this word, we have to we can have the option of 2 or 4 or 6, right? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry. Maybe I misunderstood Sister Naila's question. Yes, the letter of lean is 2 harakas. The med of lean, which is due to a stopping, that is either 2, 4, or 6. Right. We'll stop here now. Please, before the next lesson, look at your notes. If you haven't written notes, I would highly recommend, after the YouTube recording is out for this lesson, just turn it on like 2 times speed and just take down notes. I would recommend like a tree diagram. Maybe that will really help you out to understand the different types of med if it's visualized in some kind of tree. But up to you, everyone learns in their own way. جزانا وإياكم. Thank you.
جزاكم الله خير.
Stop here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت. Have a great evening, everyone, and I'll see you next Thursday, inshallah.
Thank you. عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام.